almost a year ago when Doug said, I want to look at more examples of youth innovation. And I think you heard from all the colleagues that Human Habitat has always been the pioneer. And I feel so privileged that I've been serving UN Habitat, having Doug as my guru. And I've always said that because I come from the child rights movement. Most of my youth work is really coming from Doug. Luckily to be mentored. And it's great because we're doing an intergenerational thing. Marvin, come here. So this is an intergenerational publication. You're going to sing a song next Sunday. So finally, this is where we'll be very happy to launch the publication, which Marvin will walk us through because it has to be youth-led and it's youth-written, but inspired again by Doug, and I've also had contributed. Marvin, over to you, and let's give Marvin and Doug a big round of applause. This is a social media picture who is tweeting, so please tweet. Mantra, idhar aage photo le because I need to tweet this out.
I'm recording a video.
Okay, guys, were you doing it? Okay.
I don't.
Yes.
Well, okay. I appreciate Robbie's, and I'm honored. But to also be clear, I think this is very much Marvin's work, and that of Cisco, and the amazing work they've done. I gave that little video that we saw at the front. I mean, we just really believe innovation is the key, but it's not the end goal. It's the play. We have to unlock it, and unlocking it is a complex thing for many people. Unlocking it for a young woman is different than unlocking it for somebody who's a young man who lives in Kenya, who is a young person who lives in Indonesia, and so on. The keys are all similar but different. They're keyed just that bit differently, and you really have to find that. And that. Robbie gives paparazzi lessons after this. So I mean, I think this document goes a ways in doing that. I mean, we heard the work, one of the reports that Carol had mentioned. I mean, it's just getting more out there, like getting everyone to take a cut at it. What did you find? Where did you see it? What example did you do? How many examples have you got? And these are the kind of things we need to do, because the one thing you'll find in the UN system, I think, and to any apologies of offending Aline and my World Vision colleagues, you'll find youth or children everywhere. Children is a billion-dollar business. 15, 20. I don't know what did we have figured out. 15 to 20 billion dollars. Youth, I think when we did it once, an interagency committee, we came around subpar 250 million. Now that sounds like a lot, it's not pocket change. I mean, we'd love to all have 250 million, but when you spread it out over the 1.8 billion youth, the number is small. And so what we have to do is we have to start addressing this equation, and then we have to address this equation by finding out what the heck we're addressing, and we're really throwing ourselves at it. We're starting a bit a ways back, but I mean, with people like Marvin and the others here, I think that we can move forward. And what we've seen really since the Arab Spring, and I described it as Tunisia -1 and Tunisia +1, the day after Tunisia and the Arab Spring, we knew something was going on. It wasn't necessarily driven by anybody like institutions, the UN, the governments, or anything. It's actually driven by CNN and Al Jazeera. But nonetheless, we knew something was going on. Now, things have gone up and down. The Arab Spring obviously is not seen as the most positive thing as it once was, but the hope that it brought about, that young people actually can make a difference. When you looked at in Cairo, when they overthrew a dictatorship of 50 years within weeks, then people are like, wow, there is something going on. When you look at what happened in Istanbul, around a park, for God's sake. If you look at what happened in Brazil, in Rio, in Sao Paulo, where young people were standing up for all number of rights, it happened everywhere. And so what we are here is riding that wave. Sometimes the wave will bury us, but then other times you'll be on top of it and you're on top of the world. I think kind of right now in the UN world, we're on top of the world. Lots going on, very, very positive. But I mean, it's just continuing to follow that. So yeah, I'd love to hear from Marvin and what his opinion is on that.
Okay, finally, you take the floor.
Hey everybody, so cool that I can see so many familiar faces. I really appreciate all the work that everyone's done towards this day. Just yesterday I actually saw a picture of John and Ravi that Doug had posted, that Doug had commented on Twitter, and I don't know if it's actually from the 70s, but it was two of them. It was two of them checking in, and they look so young. And I think these two guys are. Is Jocelyn there? Yeah, he's right there. When I first came into this work like a year ago, Robbie was informing me on a history of youth work. And I think John and Robbie, in our generation, are probably two of the folks that have really been working on it for a long time. It seems under the mentorship and leadership of Doug. And the youth work, like just work within the UN system, seems to have been going on for a long time. I think Doug mentioned that earlier. I was taking some notes, and I've really been surprised at how many different things have gone over time. And yet today we're still facing the same challenges without organizing. So some context on me: I'm an entrepreneur. I've successfully built a clean technology company about 2.5 years ago. And then I traveled to India for a bit to reconnect with my roots. On my way back, I connected with Ravi through a group called Nexus, and from there we just started spitballing ideas around innovation, entrepreneurship, the post 2015 agenda, what we do as a strategy, what was our policies, how does it involve entrepreneurship and youth. And through that time, we kind of came to this place where we are now. Ravi brought this idea of a document around ICT, innovation, communication, technology, the role that plays, the work that UN Habitat's done. And he really set a framework for how we can identify what's been going on within UN spaces globally, and then what work needs to get done, like what are the challenges. And then I kind of came in and said, okay, these are some of the things that are going on. We mixed our brains with the different entrepreneurs we knew. So these are really what's going on. This is the data about how effective they've been. And then these are frameworks that we can utilize to foster innovation. So we really borrowed from IDEO, Stanford D School, and a lot of leading research about how you can fundamentally create innovation. And it's a very difficult challenge. As Doug mentioned, there's so many different communities that you're creating it for. And I think a lot of it stems into these 3 processes. And all this you'll find in the document that's both here and online. You can sign up for it at innovationyouth.org. But all this really stems into 3 processes that have changed over the last 50 to 75 years. One, it's Moore's Law. It's the drop in price of technology. Technology today is so much cheaper, so much smaller, so much more useful than it was even 10 years ago. I mean, remember back in the day when you had cassette players? Do you remember your cassette player getting stuck in there? That doesn't happen anymore. That's a really big difference. It's such a small problem in life, but it's such a big difference. Before you had cameras, GPS, these were all separate devices, a phone, a mobile phone. Now you've got all that in your iPhone or Android device. I mean, or your dumb phone. I mean, it's a pretty unique world. I was just reading an article the other day. Mobile phones have had the highest impact on poverty in the world. It's just incredible how much revenue is created for people. So what I'd like to do over this time, I think this is really the start of it. We've been working on this for a year. This outlines a whole bunch of stuff and thoughts. This document is something that governments and organizations and businesses can take up and say, okay, I'm really curious on how I can create more innovation or solve these problems. I want young people to play a role in the system, and I want to help them do it. So it creates a framework for them to do it. It has ideas for young people to take up. And what I'm hoping moving from this is we really start getting people at the table. As Doug alluded to, we've had some really cool people at the table. Simon Sinek is very interested in this conversation. The CTO of Cisco wrote the preface for the document alongside Doug. A lot of really, really interesting folks and players have the potential to be involved. There's a lot of people already working on entrepreneurship and innovation and youth at the UN itself and just across parts of the entire social good space. They don't seem to be connected right now, and I think it'd be really fascinating to kind of bring them together, just align our priorities, align our goals, organize us a little bit, and maybe that'll help us when we're looking at this conversation 30 to 50 years from now, to move forward and say, wow, we've created such a big impact. I would love to gain more of your ideas and your thoughts on what you think happens next. We've got this big, beautiful document. We've got a lot of cool players. We've got some ideas. We highlight a lot of people. What's next? What do you think needs to happen? Innovationandyouth.org is a place where you can write your name into. I'm available online at Startup MIG, it's my current company, or at Marvin J. Matthew on Twitter. You can reach out to Doug or Robbie, and I think everybody's interested in having this conversation. I would really like to see it go from a top-down to a bottom-up conversation. I would like to see us empowering our network of folks all over the world and centering and organizing around key issues. And I think the last thing I'll leave you with, and I think the most important thing, is that this document and all of this work And even like Ravi's work at the UN seems to be about opening up the kimono and letting people kind of take a look in at the UN and understand what the processes are and how they can get involved. Now, if we can move that up into a scale while enabling young people locally around the world to solve their own challenges in their own communities and find a way to be a facilitator instead of a loudmouth, instead of like a amplifier, be a facilitator, help them organize, then I think we can really, that's when I think we can like really tackle change. When we see folks in local communities around the world and we find ways to connect them, empower them, whether that's through finances, knowledge, that would be really, really fantastic. And I think 30 years from now, when we look back, that's the key to achieving our global goals. So if you're interested in, let's chat some more. If you have ideas, let's make them happen. But I'm really excited about this, and thank you again.
So I think it's one of those rare moments when you have a young person really as a co-author. And I think it's been incredible because, we really have spent time almost fighting. You have no idea what the fights we have about each word of each example, because we really wanted to make sure that both old school and new school are fused together. And I would say really, after the UN Habitat's ICT publication, which is another brilliant publication, which I'd really encourage you to look at, this is something which has, and it also talks about the My World survey and the methodology, and also proves people wrong that you can actually use online and offline technologies to reach out to the most unreached. And I think it is really, whether we like it or not, as Doug said in the opening, this is the reality. Technology is here to stay. So, I remember working years ago in Seva in Gujarat with a colleague, and she was about 80 years old, and she said, I said, why are you doing this technology? But she said, oh, we have to move with technology and use it to our advantage, rather than technology creating us and throwing us into patterns of discriminatory processes, and then of course the repercussions. So I think I really encourage everybody to read. Doug is going to tweet it right now, the link, where it will be the most updated version. We have another website dedicated to it, but the idea of the website is to really have more examples. So again, I would really like a group picture with this so that we can actually do it as a collective thing rather than us. It's a little cheesy, but I come from India, the land of Bollywood. So it'd be great if we can have a nice picture with everybody, and then we'll throw that out. And then I want to also introduce some other folks who are also doing some groundbreaking work on 3D technology and creating learning for young people. And also some other people who may want to take the floor and speak about the opportunity. Can you do a quick cheesy picture, everybody? Very nice.